Martin Bailey here. This is the fourth part of our Film Fun series in which we've been processing some 120 film, and today what I'm going to do is kind of close the loop for now because we're going to scan the photographs into the computer. I don't have an enlarger. It doesn't really interest me that much because my ultimate goal is to print digitally anyway. So we're just going to close the loop for now with an episode on how I scan the film in to the computer. So I'm using this is quite an old Epson scanner. It's a GTX770. Probably only, that number's probably only good for Japan. They're probably different numbers in other countries, and there are going to be newer models out there. The thing is, if you're buying a scanner for this purpose, you want to make sure that you get something like this, or that it comes with another one of these for 35mm film and other formats. But you want to make sure that it's got this film holder in there so that you can actually drop it in, and this helps to register where the film, the negative film is, or slides, on the flatbed, on the scanner's bed, and then it helps the software to figure out where it needs to trim away and stuff like that. So basically what you do is, if you're using the scanner for film for the first time, or in that session, you need to take this off because it's going to throw light down from here. I usually just blow the surface off here a little bit. We're going to need to find some film. I have this binder that I'm using to keep my processed film in, cutting it into strips. So we're going to take this third piece of film out here, being careful not to touch the film itself, and on here it shows us that we need to put the slide film down. So that's basically the shiny side will go downwards. I'm going to take this off here, and I think I'm going to scan probably this middle one here. No, I'll tell you what, we'll go for the top one here. But so what we need to do is make sure that we have this downwards, and I am going to, let's see, AB. Okay, I'm going to put it this way. You can flip these around, so it doesn't really matter which orientation you have, top bottom, but you do need to make sure that the matte side, the not shiny side, is facing upwards. And then close this. You can see we've got the film in there. Two of them are visible, so I can do up to two at once with this setup. And then on this particular scanner, we've got a B here and a B here, so it shows us where to place this. And then we just give this one last blow off, make sure everything's good, and then we're ready to scan. So we'll go over to the computer and do that now.
Okay, so we're here on the computer now. The scanner is actually back where it usually lives, just behind here. So I've left that. I've put the camera on so that you can see that. Not that it will really help, because all we'll do is do most of this on the screen. So I've opened up the Epson scan software, and I'm just going to run you through the settings. When we work with, we're actually going to be scanning a film, a negative or a slide, you want to change this document type to film, and right now I'm scanning black and white negative film. I'm going to leave that as it is there. I've selected for the image type 24-bit color, and resolution, this is one that can be a little bit difficult to figure out what you want to do with it, but you basically want to go for between 3000, what's the preset? 3200 here is probably about what you want to be at for normal scanning, but I like to get as much detail as I can, and I've found that 4200 gets me, still continues to bring detail out in the photograph for me, but it's a little bit on the large side. The files are huge from this, so 3200, or if you want to type it in, go to 36 or maybe 38, or even 4000. 4200 is probably the most you want to go to and still expect to get a little bit of more detail out of the film. Perhaps overkill, probably overkill. So, but that's what I'm using there. And then if we look down further down the screen here, we've got unsharp mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave unsharp mask on. Again, this is something that you might want to play with yourself. I have found that the scanner software makes just as good a job of sharpening the image as I can get from a few different tweaks in Photoshop. If you would prefer to sharpen in Photoshop or use a different sharpening tool, turn this off, and that way you won't do any sharpening to the image, and you'll be able to go off and do your sharpening in Photoshop or something else later. Everything else I'll leave it turned off. There's things like the digital ice technology that just fixes scratches and dust spots and things like that. But honestly, I want to do things like that myself. I don't like leaving anything to automation because it could get over aggressive and take out something that actually should have been there. So I prefer to fix things like dust and scratches and things in Photoshop myself. So we'll go ahead and we put the film into the holder earlier. If we now go in and hit the preview button, the scanner will go away, and you'll see it flash up briefly. During the initial preview scan, it will it'll first find the fact that it's got that film holder in there, and then it will go off and just say, okay, so we know what we've got to do with this, and it'll flip into, here we go, there's the film holder, and it gives us two separate films that we can go in and go ahead and scan. Now, I'm not going to bother scanning the second one. I've actually already scanned all of these in. So we'll double click on this. You'll see that we've got a few things here, some marks on the top, even though I have done a bit of used the blower to get rid of some of this dust. Sometimes it still gets in, and you'll pretty much always find a little bit more when you get right down into the detail. The other thing that I like to do is click auto exposure. You can see that it brings out a lot of detail in the photo, and it actually gets it right most of the time. If you want to give it a tweak yourself, the button next to that is highlight adjustment, or histogram adjustment, sorry. And you can go in if you want to and adjust these levels, and maybe also make sure that you're getting the whole range from the image here. I sometimes do this, sometimes don't. I have actually, although this was my first time scanning my own film, developing my own film, sorry, I have scanned film many times over the years, so I'm a little bit more adept at this than I am the film processing, which was my first time. But as you can see, we can just go through these a little bit and just modify how the image looks with these little sliders here, and just open the output here, open that up a little bit. That gets you a nicely exposed image as well. So it really is up to you how you work with this. If I want to go back here, clear that, I want to go back here, reset, and then go back out and just use the auto exposure, because I think that gets us pretty close each time. And I'm going to leave on the unsharp mask, as I said. If I click this file saving settings, you can see here that we actually get we can give the file a name. I'm going to use my MBP that I put before all of my files, and then I'm just going to name it Yashka D, and that gives me a way of easily searching for images that I've taken with the Yashka D. And that is, of course, when I'm in Lightroom, things like that. Normally, if you are working in a program like Lightroom, you've got EXIF data, but although you can get software plugins to add EXIF data to scanned films, I'm not thinking I'm going to go that far, especially as I'm not making notes of all of my exposures and my aperture, shutter speed settings in the field, things like that. So I'm just going to use this name, and that gives me a good way of searching on and finding all of my Yashka D photographs in my Lightroom library. You can change the start number. I've actually already scanned in 10 photos, so I'm going to change this. I've got this at 11. I'm going to use TIFF, and for the options I'm going to just select Macintosh, and then The compression, I'm going to leave it turned off, just because I don't really know exactly how aggressive that compression is. And I'm going to leave on embed ICC profile and click OK. And then when we say OK down there, we should be ready to now go and hit the scan button. I have to go back to the thumbnail view and then hit the scan button. And this is actually going to take, it tells us initially it's going to take 12 minutes. In practice it takes 3 or 4 minutes. So I'll speed this up. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I'm not going to sit here for like 3 or 4 minutes and look at my desktop wallpaper. But I'll speed this up, and then we'll pick back up on the trail when the scanner's finished. There you go. See, it's dropped from 12 to 7 minutes in about 20 seconds or so. Here we go. Okay, so it's dropped that onto my desktop. Let's get rid of the preview, and we can actually come out of the scanning software now. Here's the photo on my desktop, and I'm going to open this in Photoshop just to take a look. So if we zoom in a little bit down here, you can see that there's quite a lot of detail. It's very grainy. It was surprising for the first time really in a long time to see just how grainy film is. And the HP5, I think it was, that I used is actually a little bit grainier than the Delta Pro, which I've got in the camera now. But you can see up here there's I mean, after shooting digital for so long, the image quality as such is not that brilliant. But this is like I said in the introduction, what I'm looking at right now is, I'm looking at this as 100% here. Let's just double click this. So that's exactly 100%. And then if we go back to fill screen, you can see that I'm zooming in quite a way. And because we scanned it at 4200 DPI, I'm on the edge of going a little bit over the top with that as well. But there's plenty of detail, and when you print it out, you can get beautiful big prints. And so, that's really all I'm going to do. I will go through in a moment. In fact, let's do this now. I'm going to move up to somewhere where they've got some detail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Smart Sharpen, and this is going to, you see how crazy that goes because I've already sharpened. I've already done the unsharp mask. But just to show you the settings that I was getting, I've saved a preset here. So this is my preset for an unsharpened 4200 DPI 6x6 film, the 120 film. And I found that the amount of 200%, radius of 5 pixels, reduced noise at 10% was just about right. I'm not going to apply this because, as you can see, I would be doubly sharpening the image, and I don't need to do that. So we'll just cancel out of that, but I did want to show you the settings that I've been using. And then, of course, you'll need to go through and remove any dust spots or anything that over here, if we've got anything like this, we can just go in and start to spot that as we normally would. But that really is about it. And then we're ready to go away and print or file it away or do whatever you want to do. So that's it. Walk you through that quickly there, but that's how I've been scanning my 120 roll films. So that's it. We, once we've got the files in digital form, we can go ahead and print them. These are a few of the images that I've already printed out. This is on Breathing Colours Silverado metallic paper. It's got a very sort of traditional look to it, if you like that sort of thing. Very glossy as well. I like matte papers, but something about this film and the whole process made me want to create a glossy photo like this.
And here's another one. This one I left in the square format. But this one, you know, I didn't feel that the sky was really adding very much, or the foreground. So I cropped this down to a 3x2. But really the amount of resolution that you can get from these files, it's got its grain. There's that organic film look to it, but I think that's part of the fun. So I've really enjoyed the process, and I hope that you've enjoyed joining me on my Film Fun series. And we'll probably come back to this at some point as I do more, but for now, that's it. Thanks very much for staying with me, and I hope you've enjoyed it. See you later.